Hello, I'm Gloria Greer. You know, the arts continue to grow in Southern California. Today we're going to take you to two very different art galleries in Palm Desert. The Christian Hohmann Gallery of Fine Art on El Paseo and Imago Galleries. So stay with us as we explore the arts.
The Michael H. Lord Gallery in Palm Springs is proud to support public television. Learn more about our paintings, photography, and sculpture at michaelhlordgallery.com or our North Palm Canyon location. Michael H. Lord Gallery, an oasis of contemporary art since 1978.
Thanks also to Palm Springs Life for 50 years, California's prestige magazine. The Palm Springs Air Museum, a nonprofit educational institution whose mission is to exhibit, educate, and eternalize combat aircraft and our veterans. In addition to flying aircraft, artwork, and library sources, perpetuate American history for future generations. The Camelot Theaters, bringing you retrospective, documentary, and art films, foreign, and award-winning motion pictures. And the following supporters of public television and this program.
Some of you may remember the Hart Gallery in Chicago, Carmel, and Palm Desert. Well, when Eva Hart retired, she gave her amazing collection to Christian Hohmann, her gallery director, who is an expert on German art and artists. We had an opportunity to visit his new gallery. He has now opened the Christian Hohmann Gallery of Fine Art with this wonderful collection, and we walked around with Christian and talked to him about the artists. We are with Christian Hohmann,
who is the owner of the gallery.
Hi, and you came here from Hamburg.
Yeah, Germany.
Well, that must have been a tremendous adjustment to go from Hamburg to Palm Desert.
It was in the beginning, it was indeed, yeah, but it's been fun.
Tell me about, I mean, the art is so different that it's really hard to pinpoint about each piece, but certainly there must be some that you think would be the most interesting.
Yeah, well, we all have our favorites. It is true what you say. We always try to be a little more broad, and we look more for quality than for a certain theme, and for something that's not trendy, that is not just painted to sell, something that has a very unique vision. And you know, those visions you find in various different styles.
Tell me something about this painting behind me. It's so lovely.
The painter is Thomas Jessen. He is a master student of probably the most famous German artist, Gerhard Richter. And Richter was or is an abstract artist, and as the student always have to overcome the master at one point, Thomas Jessen became a little more realistic, and we're sitting in front of a forest scene, and he even titled it with a little remark called Snow White, so it should remind of a fairy tale setting. It's a really almost like a blurry photograph, but when you stand back and you look at it, it becomes very realistic almost once you walk into that forest.
Yes, I do have that feeling.
Yeah. We also have a very, very exciting and wonderful painting by Thomas Jessen in the front of the gallery. And it depicts a scene from the Netherlands. And it is a striking piece because, as we can see right here, the composition that he chose is so reduced to just that one tree in the middle and the field that is almost three-dimensional. It almost invites you to walk right into it.
When you walk into this gallery, there's some just lovely, lovely romantic paintings of ladies.
Yes, yes.
Tell me about that artist.
Joanna Jawinska. She is fairly new with us, with the gallery. We assumed her representation just a year and a half ago. And now she paints very little. She selected very few galleries that can have her original paintings. We're one of the fortunate ones that do, and we're actually now just featuring her on a broader basis. And these, portraits that are out there are not really portraits of specific women. They're not real people. Mm-hmm. They're more, I would say, attitude portraits. They're very feminine, yet very strong, emancipated women that she paints. And with a lot of humor, she kind of reflects that in her paintings.
What about your sculptures? You have quite a few here.
Yeah, we take a lot of pride in our selection in sculptures. Again, what we try to find is a very unique position. We have so far found a lot of these sculptors in Europe. Right now we just broadened our horizon again and took on a new artist, J.D. Hansen. She is a young, actually somewhat of a local artist. She's from the LA area. And we just started representing her work in the gallery, and she's also featured in the front very prominently right now.
But you also have a wonderful and sort of out of this world, I don't know how to describe it. It could be a costume or a ballet outfit. Or
I know what you're talking about. Laura and Jacobs, yeah. These are objects that are a multitude of techniques, resin, glass. She creates a lot of these glass pieces herself. Her themes, she calls them objects of femininity. So they're always connected to the women and project their strengths, but also the obstacles that they have to deal with.
Well, maybe this is a time for us to stroll around.
Yes.
Let's go.
All right, now here we have the cinema, the cafe, La Belle Femme. Very French, but the artist
Paris.
isn't French.
Well, he lived in France.
Aha.
And he lived in France in the late 20s.
And his name?
His name is David Schneuer. He was born in Poland in 1905, and his father made a very life-changing decision of moving from Poland to Germany, Munich, and he was Jewish, and so he had to grow up in a Bavarian and all-Catholic neighborhood, which was very, very hard for him. So the moment he turned 18, he was out of there. He actually went to Berlin, to Hamburg, and then finally to Paris. And he was young. He was 21, 22 when he was in Paris, and he had the time of his life. And it was then in the late 50s that he was discovered by painting what we see right here, his memories of the good times that he had in the streets of Paris, of Berlin. And so this is what we see in here. And what is so wonderful is when you look at all the different faces, he gave a character face to each and every one of them. And so we find ourselves back in the streets, and at a time in the 20s and early 30s when life was really happening on the streets.
Interesting, and he does have other original paintings here, I know.
Yes, yeah, we have quite a selection.
Is this by any chance Mozart?
You're right on, it is.
Oh.
Yes. This is a painting by one of our most favorite artists. We've been representing him for 10 years in the United States, for even longer in Germany. His name is Eberhard Höchstädt. It's kind of difficult to pronounce.
Behind you are some wonderful paintings. Are they by the same artist?
Yes, they are. Eberhard Höchstädt is very versatile. Besides landscapes, beautiful still lifes, and also wonderful portraits of women, he does very, very exciting triptychs that are also, in this case, connected to Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Here we have young Mozart, all dressed up. His father exploited his talent very early, and so in the back we can see a shadow figure. This is the father who had Mozart play in salons for all the rich people and for the kings and of the Austrian Empire. And on the right-hand side, here we can see Mozart, how he saw himself as the hero. He painted himself here as the story or the main character out of his opera The Magic Flute, Papageno. Mozart always aspired to get a government position, which meant security, it meant pay, it meant a lot of freedom in what he could do. But the only people that would get one of those government positions were the ones with connections and the ones that would bow down in front of royalty. That was the one thing that Mozart could never do. He was always a rebel. And here Höchstädt painted one of those government officials, and he really has the face of a very simple and, like toothless man. And in front of him he holds a mask. That is the government position. And here he has the nice Roman silhouette, the powdered face, and the wig.
Now these are dancers?
They are. They're flamenco dancers.
And who is the artist?
Her name is Karen Wilke. She is one of our younger, also a German artist. And we fell in love with her painting because of her passion. And she had a friend who was a flamenco dancer who had a big impact on her work. And so we're standing in front of this massive painting, which is called the Spanish Festival. And of course, it's all flamenco dancers, and we can even see the fan that they use in their dances. And this is a part of her work that is even new to us. Just recently, she started working with collage. Rather than only painting, she added fabrics and actual items. This is an actual fan.
Yes,
it's an actual piece of an object that she integrated in her work, and also these are fabrics, actual lace pieces of clothing that she integrated into that wonderful flow. And she has really grown into these large formats, which is something that we absolutely love.
Well, proof that you have everything from the very traditional, back in the days of Mozart, to abstract.
Yes. Yeah, Thomas Ritter, that's the name of this artist, is very different. His work is abstract, even though there's always an underlying idea of something from the real world. For example, a landscape or a portrait. But he reduces that to the essence. He spends a lot of time creating a very interesting background with many, many layers, and then creates a beautiful composition in heavy oil colors. He has a great sense for colors. And interesting enough, every time we have an art critic come to the gallery, Thomas Ritter is their choice.
And what can I say about this? You walk into this gallery with all these beautiful paintings, and suddenly, pop art.
Yeah.
Very Andy Warholish in some ways.
It is indeed. And it came a little bit as a surprise for us. The whole pop art thing is something that is new to us in the gallery. And it came by the ways of an artist that we have known for 14 or 15 years. And it was a real surprise to see that in the last 14 years, he has become one of the hottest emerging artists of Germany, with the series that he calls glamorous. It is pop art brought into our times. When Warhol and his fellow artists started making pop art big, it was about the one image that became the icon. See, through the whole globalization, all that imagery has become worldwide. Everywhere you can see the same advertising, the big brands. So, you know, he is the perfect combination of what this gallery is all about. You know, the European and the American side brought into one.
Now, let's visit one of Southern California's most unusual galleries, Imago in Palm Desert.
Lisa, how did this gallery come about?
Started in Palm Springs, what's now 15 years ago. Built this space and have been in it 8 years this month. And but we started basically as art consultants in Texas, and selling to galleries and architects around the country. In this space we're 17.5 interior plus our sculpture garden, sculpture terrace.
Wow. But it takes, I think, a lot of nerve and guts and courage to build something like this. This, I say, it's Imago Gallery. Everyone refers to it as Imago Gallery, but it really is a museum.
Oh, thank you.
It is. It appears to be. And you talk about the space, but it's like no matter what art show you have here, there's tremendous space for it.
Oh, thank you.
All right, now this artist, you saw the exhibit in New York.
I visited his studio in New York. We had an exhibition for Hohmann in this building probably 2 or 3 years ago before he passed away. He's been gone 2 years now. This work comes about from his widow, Carice, and this is the last series he was working on before he passed, which is polychrome bronzes.
You know, Lisa, I really want to look around some more, so can we go for a stroll?
Yes.
Wonderful, and then you can show me some more pieces.
Absolutely.
Thank you. This is just absolutely incredible. Now, was this originally a guitar or an instrument?
In this particular case, these are cast bronze, cast in France. He lived in Vence part of the year as well as New York. And then the works are polychromed.
Amazing. The colors are so beautiful.
The colors are intense, and that's due to the patina, to the polychrome process.
Do you have any idea how long it took him to make one of these?
Well, working in bronze is an intense process, so there are a number of steps involved, involving the wax, the plaster, the patina, and this is actually the first complete show of the polychrome bronzes in this country. I don't know if they've been shown in France or not.
Lisa, let's go on. I really want to see the beautiful glass sculptures that you have.
Karen Lamont.
And what are they? How do you describe it?
Cast glass dresses made in Czechoslovakia in a factory in Prague.
This is so beautiful. And I mean, the way it's lit. I know the room's dark. Probably we look like two dark spots, but it doesn't matter because this is so beautiful.
And I think David only has one, actually has two bulbs on it, and it is glowing. This piece, these are very thick, as you can see, cast glass, but they are heavy and solid. This is 3 separate pieces. Again, this is Karen Lamont, and this is very similar to Armand's process. It's typical of a bronze casting process, a glass casting process. Again, takes a number of processes: wax, plaster, clay.
Now, does she only do gowns? And of course, there's some marvelous children's dresses too that are just wonderful. But is this all she does?
No, she does a number of things, including figurative work in what looks like a mirror. Mm-hmm. She's also just spent 6 months in Japan on a grant, and so I'm sure we'll be seeing some kimonos.
Now, did she come to you, or did you find out about her? How do you find all of these really unique artists?
I think in this case, I met Karen at least a decade ago. She's from New York, although she lives in Prague. And one of my collectors in New York had purchased a small dress of hers. And I saw it there and I fell in love with it.
Isn't this incredible? Here's where I say it looks like a museum, you know, the way it's all laid out. And
Gloria,
it is so eclectic.
This is really our back room. This is the sculpture gallery. Well, there is Chihuly in this gallery. William Morris also had an exhibition there. So there are some major names in this room, and in addition to glass, there is a piece of clay work by Rudy Audio, one of my favorite artists who passed, who was Chihuly's best friend, Italo Scanga. So there are some amazing pieces in here.
Where did the name come from, Imago?
I was flipping through an architectural term book. It means image, as in the image of a painting, and it just fit.
Lisa, you'll have to explain all of this to me so I understand it. It's divine, but I have to understand it.
This is an artist named Eugene Brodsky from New York. An amazing process. We just got these. You can probably still smell the oil paint, how fresh it is. I saw it in process in his studio this summer in the Hamptons, and I absolutely love his work. He takes old film cells and he actually pushes the paint through with his hands. It's very sculptural, a lot of dimension. He builds the boxes first and then puts everything on separately. But he works smaller. He works in a maquette to start.
Of course, you have to have a fairly big space for this. You know, now I've talked to you and I've learned so much about your gallery, but I want to find out more from your husband, David.
Great.
Okay, so we'll go talk to him. David Austin, you're the other half of Lisa and David Austin, owners of Imago. And certainly you've been very busy. You know, I'm fascinated by the size. So many of your art pieces are massive.
When artists occasionally, particularly artists that have been doing it for a long time, they make heroic works with no idea where they should go. Not everything is something that would go over itself or on a pedestal. And when we see them and they see what we're doing, we have an opportunity to show things that galleries can't show.
No, well, actually, it is, and I've said it before, it is more like a museum when you walk in.
I tell people that we build collections here. So we already know going into this show, I've already called the people and said, hey, the Armands are here, hey, William Morris's show's here. So we definitely operate with our clients in mind, sort of as art consultants, which is how we started.
This is an interesting show.
These pieces are called Starry Nights, and Armand made everything with found objects. Well, Starry Nights is one of Van Gogh's most famous series, and these are basically the Starry Nights paintings, but made with an accumulation of paint brushes, as well as a painting underneath. But that was Armand's great sense of humor and the use of found objects.
This is amazing.
Well, again, Armand was famous for finding things, mundane household things, and making sculpture, or in this case, paintings, or a combination of a painting and sculpture. So these are all just big paintbrushes like you would paint your house with. But obviously the most important aspect is the subject matter, which is Van Gogh's Starry Nights, which were my favorite paintings Van Gogh made.
But the colors too, the way he's done the paintbrushes, you know, it's fine to say, okay, this is dipped in black, fine. But I mean, some of these are really very artistic.
They're very, there's some very subtle things. I mean, Armand was, aside from being a sculptor, he was a very fine painter. He was a protege when he was a young man of Picasso, so he did very, very fine, beautiful paintings, and later in life he came to trust himself to just paint instinctually. And I think as he matured, the paintings became very instinctual. There was a lot of action, and it wasn't that they weren't thoughtful, but he didn't think he had to think about them that much. So you can see by looking at this, it's a still object, but you see a lot of action. You can see him working fast. There's no way anyone painted this painting working slow. And I think that's one of the wonderful things about it. He really trusted himself.
Let's go look at the Chihuly. You have such wonderful pieces.
Well, when we built the building, we built some defined spaces for Dale's work. And a couple of them, the big chandelier in the corner window that's sort of our billboard, and the one on the south side, which is strategically placed when the southern sun rolls by about noon. It's pretty glorious. But Dale's work is, for the most part, blown work. And you know, he has a famous expression, "I never met a color I didn't like." And it's true. And really, aside from the things that we know of Dale, of these objects that he makes that look, you know, like C-forms, and called C-forms, or Persian forms, or baskets, his real interest lies now in these large-scale installations, which he's doing all over the world. He's doing one in Dubai now. That's the fantastic thing about glass, is unlike any other colored material outside, it doesn't fade, it doesn't change, whereas any painted material will change. So we have this fantastic light here, and we take advantage of it with Dale's work.
No, but it is fascinating. You have to explain it. And it does things.
It does do things. So this is Fletcher Benton, who has been one of the West Coast's most important sculptors for decades. In the 50s and 60s, actually in the 60s, he became a kinetic artist. And his first pieces related to the circus. He had a kind of a controversial show at Gump's in the 60s, where he had these little circus pieces, and they were like nude circus performers, and the next day the show was taken down. And it made art form, it made all of this. Well, Fletcher, 43 years later, still isn't very happy about it. So he's been working on this series called The Circus Revisited. And again, the first ones were motorized. However, these they just move. So we're going to have this show. We're going to have one of the young guys that works for me is going to keep things moving throughout the show. He's just going to walk around, and we're going to invite people to, you know, do your thing. And everything in here says, please do not touch. But this is the one time
I can do this?
When you can touch.
It stops?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But, you know, these were like, Alexander Calder was the most famous circus. You know, he did the circus and the circus sculptures and the circus gouaches. And this is Fletcher's point of view. And Fletcher's got lots of toys. And these are, to me, very serious toys.
They're wonderful. Now, I love what you did with the lighting, because the shadow is really quite sensational.
Yeah. Well, and usually I avoid the shadows because I think it complicates things, but in this case, Fletcher was right. When we lit it and we started doing some things.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it is wonderful. And people's interaction with them, you know, this is one, we're going to have kids in here. You know, something we do here, the Braille Institute comes to our gallery. And and I always take them to sculpture. And we talk about it.
Do they get to feel it?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And this is a show that we're going to call them and say, you guys need to come for
Wonderful.
this. Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed our visit to the Imago Galleries and the Christian Hohmann Gallery of Fine Art in Palm Desert, California. I'm Gloria Greer. Please be with us next week as we continue to explore the arts.
The Michael H. Lord Gallery in Palm Springs is proud to support public television. Learn more about our paintings, photography, and sculpture at michaelhlordgallery.com or at our North Palm Canyon location. Michael H. Lord Gallery, an oasis of contemporary art since 1978.
Thanks also to Palm Springs Life for 50 years, California's prestige magazine. The Palm Springs Air Museum, a nonprofit educational institution whose mission is to exhibit, educate, and eternalize combat aircraft and our veterans. In addition to flying aircraft, artwork, and library sources, perpetuate American history for future generations. The Camelot Theaters, bringing you retrospective, documentary, and art films, foreign, and award-winning motion pictures. And the following supporters of public television and this program: